Okay, a good night. Mr. Shem, tomorrow night is the seventh day of Pesach, and it is the anniversary of the time when our grandparents crossed the Reed Sea. The Rebbe Rashab, fifth Rebbe of Chabad, said that when he was a child, he once went with his brother to visit his grandfather, the Tzemach Tzedek, and his grandfather was telling him and his brother that on the night of the seventh of Pesach, just like God opened the Reed Sea, God opens up all of the skies, and there's a revelation of God Himself. And as the Tzemach Tzedek was saying this, it suddenly started to thunder, lightning, and Rebbe Rashab said it made a very deep impression on him. It felt like the heavens were opening up, which is what the Tzemach Tzedek was saying. The heavens are all opened, and Hashem Himself is revealed on this special night. The Rebbitzin Chaimushka, when she was 5 years old, she was playing with her sister, who was 8 years old, and in the middle of the game, the older sister came to her father and said that Musia, meaning Rebbitzin Chaimushka, she said that this holiday, the seventh of Pesach, is not like all other holidays, because in all other holidays, we recite Shechiyanu when we light the Shabbos candles, we light the holiday candles, but on the seventh of Pesach, we do not light we do not say the bracha of Shechiyanu, thanking God for reaching this occasion. Usually, we say a blessing to Hashem, thanking Hashem for giving us life and enabling us to reach this occasion. But on the night of the seventh of Pesach, we don't say this blessing. And the previous Rebbe remembered when he heard this discussion how a similar thing had happened when he was a child. He heard from his father, the Rebbe Rashab, who had told him that the Rebbe Rashab had gone to visit Tzemach Tzedek, who had said that they also had the same question, why don't we say Shechiyanu? And Tzemach Tzedek had said that the first days of Passover are the days of celebration of Moses, of the Exodus of Egypt. And the last days of Passover are the celebration of the coming of Mashiach, of the imminent redemption. And therefore, we cannot say the blessing, thanking God for reaching the occasion, the way that we could, Shech should be Higiyanu. Yaganu means to touch it, because we can't touch this future until Mashiach comes. And therefore, we cannot yet say, Shechiyanu v'kimonu, that God has given us life and enabled us to actually reach the occasion, because you only reach the occasion when Mashiach comes. That's what the Tzemach Tzedek said, and it really highlights that this holiday is about the coming of Mashiach. And as we know, that in the very final hours of the whole holiday of Pesach, we get together and we eat matzah and we drink 4 cups of wine. And we have the meal of Mashiach, as Baal Shem Tov instituted. So the question is, what is this holiday, the splitting of the Reed Sea, how does that connect with the coming of Mashiach? What does this have to do with the coming of Mashiach? So a lot of people have this sense that I'm not really living my life in the fullest way, that I'm not really expressing who I really am and connecting to the possibility that Hashem has really given me. And there's this small, soft voice that's saying that there's more. And yet there's also the voice of the Pharaoh that's holding me back. I feel constrained and I'm not really there. And this is what Hashem gives us on this holiday, on the holiday of Passover. They're able to leave where we were before and to go away from who we aren't. But going away from who we aren't is just stage one. The splitting of the Reed Sea is about becoming who we really are. Let's go back to the actual events of the day. On the night of Passover, the night of the seventh of Passover, rather, when the Jewish people had already been left Egypt several days before, and they were on the way towards Israel, God told them that they should move back towards Egypt. They should travel back towards Egypt. And when the Pharaoh saw they were going back towards Egypt, he had a spy that had accompanied our grandparents on the way out of Egypt. And when the spies saw that, number one, we weren't keeping our deal of going back to Egypt after 3 days. And number two, it looked like we were lost. We were going back towards Egypt. And we actually camped right near the idol of the Egyptians, the Baal Peor. So it looked like the idol had brought us back to Egypt. So the Pharaoh's like, we're going to go after these people. And the Pharaoh told his people, we're going to chase after the Jews, but not like in a regular war where the king goes in the back. I'm going in the front. And it's not like in a regular war where the king takes most of the spoils of war. Pharaoh says, I'm giving it all away. You guys come, you could take all the spoils of war. I'm going in the front. This is going to be the most successful victory. And then the miracle happens where the miracle happens where the Jewish people cross the Red Sea and the Egyptians are all drowned. So that is considered the end of the Exodus, because on the surface, it wasn't just that we were freed physically from Egypt, but our oppressors all died. They all died in the when the sea reverted back to the way it was before and drowned all the Egyptians. That's why it's considered the end of Passover. But the obvious question is, why not kill them in a regular way? Why this idea of the sea splitting? Especially if you consider what Tosfos says, that we didn't even get closer to Israel when we crossed the sea, because we went in a semicircle. On the same side that we entered the sea, we returned back to the same side. We didn't go across the sea. We went in a semicircle back on the same side that we left from. So if we return back to the same side, so it's clear that the whole splitting of the Red Sea had no intrinsic purpose. It would seem if it was just about drowning the Egyptians, Hashem has many ways send them a small virus. There's many ways that Hashem could have destroyed the Egyptians. What's the idea of the splitting of the sea? So, and why is this again connected to the coming of Mashiach? So the truth is that, as we say on the night of the Haggadah, in every generation, every person's obligated to look at himself as if he himself has left Egypt. It's a personal thing. It's not about something that happened in the past. And the meaning of the word Egypt, says the Talmud, that all of the nations that enslaved the Jewish people are called Egypt, because Egypt means to constrain, to cause affliction to. All the nations who caused pain to the Jewish people, they're all caused by the same name. They're called Egypt. Zalman, please go downstairs. Thanks. So, Zalman, thanks. Okay, so the idea of leaving Egypt means to leave our limitations. But it's not just about leaving our limitations, not just about leaving who we aren't. The splitting of the Red Sea means to reveal deeper within us who we really are. We all know that we have a conscious, we have a subconscious. We have things that we do consciously, and then there are a lot of things we don't know about ourselves that are in our subconscious. But beyond the conscious and the subconscious, we also have a superconscious. We also have something deeper than the subconscious. We have what's higher than the conscious, not beneath, but above. And that is the essence of the soul, the neshama. And the Zohar calls the splitting of the sea the revelation of Alma Diskasya, the revelation of the hidden world. The Zohar compares the sea with the hidden world and the true world. And what this means is like this. What's the difference between the sea and dry land? In the sea and on dry land, there are all kinds of things. On dry land, though, we could see all these things. We could see buses and cars. We could see mountains and valleys and trees, people and animals and cars. We could see all kinds of things in dry land. Under the water, there are billions of creatures. There are also mountains and valleys. There are also all kinds of organisms and plants and wildlife all over the world, and yet it's all hidden from our eyes. Another difference between the sea and dry land is this. In the sea, everything is submerged in its source. You don't, the fish feel that they are living in their source, in their life force. They need their life force and they can't go out of their life force because that's where they are animated. So instead of feeling their own ego and self, the creatures of the sea live within their source. Versus creatures on dry land, they live independent from their source. They live outside their source. They don't feel they have a source. And that's what gives birth to this sense of unhealthy ego. All negativity really comes from ego. In Yiddish, the word for ego is I, the ich. And like in English, ich is an ichy thing. All the source of all evil is ich, is I. Because I, therefore I'm insulted, therefore I'm angry, therefore it bothers me when you step on my toes, therefore wars happen. All consternation and all discord and all problems of between people and between God, between man and man, or man and God, all issues all stem from this ego, the I. And the truth is that if we would think for a little bit, we wouldn't have this sense of ego. I mean, think about it. It's a tiny seed. From a tiny seed, all of a sudden there emerges life, a tree, with shade, with fruits, a whole organism emerges from this tiny seed. It's obvious that this tiny seed isn't what it seems. That there's something far more than our eyes can see. There's a whole godly energy that is breathing, that is animating every creature in the world. Therefore, there is this possibility that emerges from this tiny seed. Peter Himmelman, from Los Angeles, when he first visited Crown Heights, he was invited to Rabbi Simon Jacobson's home, and they were discussing, and he noticed in the room a picture of the Rebbe. So he says to Rabbi Jacobson, "Who's that?" So Rabbi Jacobson said, he's my Rebbe. Why have pictures of him? Well, he's very special. How is he special? Well, he has special powers. Special powers, asked Peter. Could he fly? So Rabbi Jacobson said something that changed Peter Himmelman's life. He said, I never saw the Rebbe fly, but I know that for the Rebbe, flying and walking are the same. In other words, the Rebbe senses in walking the miracle of walking. We think walking is a natural thing. That's what we do. And God can make us fly. But doesn't God also make us walk? We look at nature as something that has its own force, it has its own power. And that's what the Egyptians also believed. The Egyptian culture, what allowed them to practice the social Darwinism and to enslave our people was all born from the culture that they lived in. The Egyptians were living in a garden amongst deserts all around them, and they had very little rainfall. And the reason why the Egyptians were able to create this oasis in the middle of the desert was because the Egyptians were able to manipulate the forces of nature, the Nile River, and to use it brilliantly to irrigate the entire country. And that's why the Egyptians worshipped the Pharaoh, who embodied the genius of man. So this idea of the powers of nature, the brilliance of man, those are the two cardinal principles that the Egyptian society was built on. And from this perspective, it was only a small walk to get to enslaving the Jewish people, to idolizing the Pharaoh, to social Darwinism, survival of the fittest. They believe in the forces of nature and the power of man, and therefore that's how things work. One power is stronger than the other. So this perspective that allowed the shameless slavery of our people is also something that Hashem wants us to pay attention to in our lives today. That we also have to guard ourselves from giving credence to our own might and power. Think about what a brain is. A brain is this interesting colored doughy thing. And yet in this brain, there's all kinds of ideas and thoughts and intellect, and it doesn't make any sense. It's not logical. So if you just think the thing about life a little bit, we realize that there is a godly energy that's animating and creating and vivifying all that is. So this is the unique experience of the splitting of the Red Sea. The sea came into the dry land. That's the language of the Torah. The sea was transformed to dry land. Ordinarily, there's a gap. There is the dry land and there's the sea. There is a sense of feeling our source as the creatures of the sea experience. And there are creatures of the dry land that experience themselves outside of their source, experience their ego. On the night of the splitting of the sea, Hashem also caused that the higher world, which experiences the angels, the souls, which they experience their divine source, we were able to feel it here on earth. We were able to feel on earth that our reality isn't true, that our reality isn't reality, it isn't real. That the Hebrew word for nature means submerged, because what nature really is, when something is submerged in water, it's fully there, just it's hidden. So the godly energy in the world became revealed to us. Nature ordinarily covers its godly source. It's a facade, but it's a facade for the godly energy within. On the night of the splitting of the sea, what was hidden became revealed. It became obvious to us, and this was different to all the other miracles that our people experienced. Maharal says that all the other miracles that we experienced were relegated to some arena of that could be confined, defined, classified safely away from us. For example, the water of the Nile River turning into blood. Okay, it was in one place. The water of the Nile River turned into blood. Frogs exist all over the world, and now they all converged in Egypt. There was one detail that was changed in each of the plagues. But the splitting of the Red Sea was something different. All of a sudden, a man who felt his ego felt that it wasn't real. He felt that this wasn't the truth. All of a sudden, it was all exposed. The Torah says, when describing the splitting of the Red Sea, Vayashuvu hamayim, the water returned. The Torah calls the Red Sea again water. And the Mechilta explains that what happened was not just the water of the Red Sea split, but all the water in the world split. And as the Talmud said, the higher waters split. What that means is that all of a sudden it became so vividly clear in all of creation that Hashem basically made a new world. It was a new world. When Hashem originally made the world, the water descends. And then all of a sudden the water splits in the entire universe. So that miracle that pervaded all of creation, the Maharal said that really gave us this sense of recognition of Hashem. We were able to say, and point with our fingers, as Zeh Keli, this is my God. We were able to say that because it was open and clear in the entire world. It was a different world. God built a new world. That's why the Torah says, the Talmud says, it is difficult for God to bring two people together in marriage, as difficult as it was for him to split the Red Sea. Why is the splitting of the Red Sea considered different than the miracle of the blood and the frogs? This is the reason why it's different. The blood and the frogs are just details in creation. The splitting of the Red Sea was the whole world became a different world. Man started to breathe a different air, started to feel at the splitting of the Red Sea, there's a different, the whole world is a different world. It's not that God is coming from some other world and he's interfering with our world and making some kind of change. God exposed at the splitting of the Red Sea the reality of the world that we live in. And that's why it says in the Talmud that a simple maidservant at the splitting of the Red Sea saw more than the greatest of prophets. The greatest of prophets, Ezekiel, they were able to see things. How? By listening to music, by becoming spiritually elevated, by getting in touch to something higher, by refining themselves. The splitting of the Red Sea wasn't about personal refinement. It was about God coming to the revealing himself in the world, revealing the truth of what is here, not about God somewhere else, but revealing the truth of what all of existence really is. And all of existence really is, it's godly source. That's what it is. So this is why it says that Moses' father-in-law, Yisro, he came to join the Jewish people only after the splitting of the Red Sea. Ma Shmua, says the Talmud, Shamuba. What did he hear that made him want to come? The splitting of the Red Sea. Why did that motivate him more than anything else? Because all the other miracles were just miracles that God did. Okay, God interferes with creation. Fine, there's a superpower that can interfere. The splitting of the Red Sea was God rebuilding the world in a different way, showing the world that the world isn't what it seems to be. God in general prefers to function through nature, as when God told Noah to build the ark. God told Moses to send spies to Israel. But here, Hashem made an exception and went against the grain of his own rules and completely revealed in the world the reality of where we are and what's going on. And this is not just meant to be something that Hashem does for the world, but this is what is meant to be done for each of us on this night, that the beginning of Passover is where we go away from who we aren't. But on the night of the splitting of the Red Sea, Hashem also gives us the power to reveal our own inner sea, our own hidden part of who we are. Because the reality is that who are we really? We really are our faith in God. We really are the neshama, the soul, which is an actual part of God. So on the night of the splitting of the Red Sea, we are entering a time where we cannot say Shechiyanu. We can't say we have this yet, because this revelation is about the coming of Mashiach. And the coming of Mashiach hasn't yet happened. But the splitting of the Red Sea is a taste of this reality. And Hashem empowers us on this night to not only go away from who we aren't, but to reveal who we really are. To realize that we are our souls, we are our connection to Hashem. That's what we really are. I just want to conclude with this story about Rabbi Hillel Parache.
But question: you're talking about tonight, or you're talking about seventh day?
I'm talking about the seventh day.
Okay.
Rabbi Hillel Parache, in his town, there was a Paritz, there was a Polish Russian landowner who he had heard of the coming of Mashiach. And he summoned Rabbi Hillel, the leader of the Hasidim in his town in Paritch, and he said to him, when your Mashiach comes, he's supposed to take all of you to Israel. Is that not correct? Hillel was like, yeah. So the Paritch says, I have soldiers. I'm not going to let you guys go. So Rabbi Hillel said, the Mashiach that you won't believe in, we won't believe in either. Mashiach is about, in other words, the reality of what is today. Mashiach is about revealing the truth of who we are, what's happening here. And the night of the Seder, we begin the Seder by saying, this is a bread of affliction that our forefathers ate in Egypt. All those who are hungry, come and eat. All those who are needy, let them come and celebrate Passover with us. Then we say, now we are here. Next year, we'll be in Israel. Now we are slaves. Next year, we will be free. On the surface, we're talking about how Mashiach hasn't come yet, and we believe and we want him to come. But why do we emphasize now we are here? We should have said now we're outside of Israel, and soon we'll be in Israel. We say now we are here because Mashiach comes, says that all the shuls, all the synagogues in the world will be brought to Israel. The sanctity of every miniature temple elevates that space so that space will be brought to Israel. Beis Betzalel, I'm sure we'll get pretty close, right, Baruch? And all the shuls will be brought to Israel. What about the homes? So the Chassam Sefer says that whenever a Jew is in a home and he prays in that home, he says Torah in that home, gives charity in that home, he elevates that space. So that space is also going to be brought to Israel. Mashiach comes, our homes will be brought to Israel too. And therefore, we say now we are here And this here that we have now will come to Israel. Because what is Mashiach? Mashiach is not something other than the Torah mitzvahs we do today. Mashiach comes, we'll see. Now just we'll see. The Torah mitzvahs we do today creates the coming of Mashiach. It comes, it's born from the Torah mitzvahs that we do today, from our davening, from our learning, from our tzedakah. That's what creates the coming of Mashiach. That's what creates the resurrection of the dead. So the night of the splitting of the Red Sea, when Hashem reveals what the world is, it's also the night when Hashem reveals who we are and what we are. And it's different. It's different to all the days of the year. That's why it's the previous Rebbe said the night of the 7th of Pesach, he said, is the night of Rosh Hashanah for Mesiras Nefesh. It's a night of, it's like the head of the year. It's like the beginning. It's like the source for the entire year for our ability to be devoted to Hashem and not let go. That's what night of the 7th of Pesach is. There's a part of us, which is a spark of Mashiach in us, that won't let go. And on the night of the 7th of Pesach, Hashem reveals that to us. And the apex of this revelation is on the end of the holiday, on Achron Shal Pesach, on the last day of Pesach. Why do we call it the last day of Pesach? It sounds so the opposite of what we know about Pesach. Pesach is meant to shine the whole year. It's meant to be a time of revelation for the whole year. Why do we call it? We don't say, and some people, when they conclude the Haggadah, they say Chasal, it's done. We don't say Chasal, it's done. Because Pesach is meant to illuminate and be experienced all year. And yet we call the last day of Pesach the last day of Pesach. The reason is this. The first day of Pesach embodies, is the departure from Egypt, going away from who we aren't. And that begins. And that has to, that's an energy that continues. But once Mashiach comes and the redemption happens, this is the final redemption. It's a final redemption because this redemption is not like the light of a candle, which goes out, if light another candle. The light of the redemption is like the light of the sun that never is extinguished, as the Talmud says. It's a light that goes on forever. And therefore it's called the last day of Pesach, because it's a final thing. It's a final move that will never be, it's an uninterrupted redemption that will go on and on forever, will never be enslaved again. They'll never be in exile again. So this revelation of the last days of Pesach gets stronger and stronger. It's not just a few hours more till pizza. We're now at the highest point of Pesach, when Hashem reveals in us and in the world who we are and what we are, and we're empowered in this time to jump away from all the things that inhibit us, to be who we're meant to be. You know, Pesach originally, the first Pesach, when we were in Egypt, fell out on a Wednesday or Thursday. But the very next year, Pesach fell out like this year on Sunday, day before Pesach on Shabbos. And Pesach means to jump. There's different kinds of jumping. There's jumping during the week, and there's jumping on Shabbos. There's jumping away from what doesn't belong in our life and going to a place that we do belong. And then there is jumping beyond the things that we are doing right already and living in those things and jumping beyond the way we're experiencing them now with just a limited perspective. And this is what Hashem gives us since Yontif, to reveal the spark of Mashiach in us, to connect to who we really are. Imagine, Rabbi, imagine if we didn't have any fear at all. I'm done. I'm trying to conclude. I'm sorry about that. Sorry, I'm in Muncie over here. It's already midnight, and I'm waking up the house. I'm sorry. I conclude. Bottom line is, a good Yontif, a freilich Yontif, Shem Shabbos Asol, to reveal who we are and what we are. We should celebrate Achron Shal Pesach with Mashiach Tzidkenu himself, Makarev Mamish. A good Yontif.
Unbelievable shir.
Thank you, Baruch. Thank you for joining.
Really fabulous. Yashikar.